If this video found you again, it means something within you is ready. You are no longer here just to remember the source field. You are here to become its living expression. The first transmission awakened the memory of who you truly are, a consciousness older than stars, a frequency untouched by chaos, a geometry written into the fabric of existence itself. But remembrance is only the first step. Now begins the second initiation, where memory becomes command, where awareness becomes architecture, and where your every breath, thought, and emotion stop reacting to reality and start shaping it. Because here is the truth the Atlantean initiates guarded in silence. Reality is not responding to you. It is responding as you. It does not follow your wishes. It follows your frequency. You were never meant to hide from darkness or protect yourself from chaos. You were meant to become so coherent that chaos itself reorganizes in your presence. You were not born to manifest from scarcity. You were born to speak reality into form, simply by existing in alignment with Source. And that is exactly what this second journey is about. Over the next 10 chapters, you will learn how to live as the field itself, how to stabilize coherence until protection becomes obsolete, how to turn your words into geometry, how to command without controlling, how to cross the quantum threshold, and how to stand so powerfully in your frequency that the universe cannot help but respond. This is not self-help. This is self-remembrance. This is not magic. This is vibrational law. And it all begins right now, with the realization that the field is no longer something you tap into. It is what you are. It moves where you move. It breathes as you breathe. So take a deep breath. Feel the golden blue pulse awaken beneath your skin. Because this time, the Source is not calling you to remember. It's calling you to command. Chapter 1. The Daily Pulse. Living as the Field. There is a moment on every awakening path when the question changes. It's no longer, how do I protect my energy? It becomes, how do I master it? It's no longer, how do I escape the matrix? It becomes, how do I rewrite it from within? The matrix was never built of steel or stone. It is a network of frequencies, patterns of thought, emotion, and unconscious reaction, designed to keep you repeating the same stories. Each time you react instead of respond, each time you absorb someone else's chaos, each time you forget the stillness beneath your breath, you strengthen the invisible walls of that system. But the instant you remember that your energy is not trapped within the matrix, it is the code that shapes it, the illusion begins to fall apart. The Atlantean initiates knew this. Liberation was never about escape. It was about stability. The one who refuses to resonate with fear is already free. The one who remains anchored while storms rage around them is already outside the program. True mastery begins the moment you stop chasing peace and start embodying it. It is not about running from the darkness. It is about becoming so coherent that darkness has no structure in your presence. It is not about blocking energy. It is about radiating a frequency so stable that nothing can override it. Every breath becomes a language. Every thought becomes architecture. Every vibration you sustain becomes the blueprint that the universe mirrors back to you. And this is how the matrix unravels, not by fighting it, but by remembering that you are the operating system. Each time you choose awareness over reaction, you rewrite the code. Each time you hold sovereignty instead of fear, the program bends around your vibration. Each time you anchor into presence, you stop being a participant and become the architect. Anchor this truth now by declaring in the comments, "I am rewriting the matrix. My energy is my command," because the first step in mastering the field is realizing you were never meant to run from the illusion. You were meant to awaken within it and reshape it with the power of your frequency. Chapter 2. The Word as Geometry. Speak reality into form. Before there was language, there was vibration. Before there were words, there was resonance. And from that resonance, the universe was shaped. The Atlantean initiates understood this truth. Speech was never merely communication. It was creation. Every syllable was a seed planted in the field. Every sound carved geometry into the invisible structure of reality. Every intention spoken aloud set the architecture of the future into motion. Your voice is not just sound, it is structure. It is a tool that imprints information into the quantum fabric. It is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, between the idea and its manifestation. But here is the forgotten secret. Words do not shape reality on their own. The state from which they are spoken determines their power. Words born from fear create distortion. Words spoken from coherence build order. Words emerging from presence become law. The Atlanteans never spoke carelessly. They understood that the field is always listening, translating vibration, not vocabulary. A single word uttered with awareness could reorganize chaos. A single phrase infused with intention could redirect the path of destiny. It was never about eloquence, it was about alignment. And alignment begins before the words ever leave your lips. When thought, breath, and feeling move in harmony, your speech becomes an extension of Source itself. In that state, language is no longer description. It is architecture. You stop talking about reality, and you start building it. So speak less often, but with greater awareness. Speak not to be heard, but to shape. Do not fill space with noise. Sculpt it with vibration. Because every word is a design. Every sentence is a code. And the universe does not obey what you say. It obeys the frequency behind your voice. The Atlantean masters called this word as geometry, the sacred art of creation through sound. They knew that speech aligned with source could ripple across timelines, altering the structure of events before they unfold. And that same power lives within you. Anchor this remembrance now by declaring in the comments, "My words are geometry. My voice shapes reality." Because when your words rise from coherence, they stop reflecting the world and begin to command it. Chapter 3. Command without control. The silent field. The greatest masters of energy understood a paradox that the modern world has forgotten. True power does not shout. It does not force. It does not chase. It simply is, and by existing in its fullness, the world bends around it. This is the art of silent command, the ability to shape reality not through effort or control, but through the sheer coherence of your presence. The Atlanteans knew that the most potent frequency is often the quietest one. A mind anchored in stillness, a heart vibrating in harmony, a field unshaken by external noise. This is not weakness. This is mastery. When your inner world becomes stable, everything around you begins to reorganize itself. People speak differently. Situations lose their chaos. Spaces feel lighter. It's not because you did anything. It's because your field silently instructed the environment to follow its lead. Modern science calls this entrainment, when a strong, stable frequency naturally pulls weaker ones into resonance. The ancients experienced it as a kind of invisible leadership, a state where reality obeys not because it's forced to, but because it recognizes coherence as its original language. This is why those who truly embody the source do not need to prove their strength. They do not argue. They do not react. They do not try to convince. Their silence speaks louder than any command. Their stillness has more impact than any effort. They are not trying to influence the world. They are being the vibration that the world cannot help but follow. To walk through life this way is to realize that presence is not passive. It is the most active force in the universe, an organizing principle that subtly shapes everything around it. And the more deeply you root yourself in coherence, the less you need to do, because your being is already doing the work. Anchor this remembrance now by declaring in the comments, "My presence is command. My energy leads reality." Because the moment you master silent command, life stops resisting you. It begins to move, gently, naturally, inevitably, in the direction of your vibration. Chapter 4. The Mirror of Energy. Reality reflects your field. Everything you see around you is not happening to you, it's happening through you. Reality is not an external force imposing itself on your life. It is a mirror, faithfully reflecting the frequency you sustain within. The Atlantean initiates taught that energy does not lie. It cannot pretend. The universe does not respond to your wishes, your words, or your plans. It responds to your vibration. Every emotion, every belief, Every subtle intention ripples outward into the quantum field and organizes matter to match its tone. This means that the people you meet, the situations you attract, and even the obstacles you face are not random. They are precise reflections of your inner architecture. If there is chaos around you, it points to chaos within. If you encounter resistance, it reveals where your frequency is still divided. And if harmony surrounds you, it is because harmony has become your nature. This is not a punishment, it is a map. The mirror is merciful, showing you exactly where alignment is missing. Most people try to fight the reflection. They argue with circumstances, blame others, and attempt to control the outer world. But the awakened being understands a deeper truth. You cannot change the mirror without changing the image it reflects. Shift your vibration, and the reflection shifts instantly. Even small changes in your state, a calmer breath, a more coherent thought, a softer emotion, send new instructions into the field. And the universe, faithful and precise, reorganizes itself to match. This is the forgotten law of reality. The world is not watching you, it is obeying you. It mirrors your state down to the smallest vibration. And the moment you remember that you are the cause, not the effect, everything changes. Anchor this remembrance now by declaring in the comments, "Reality mirrors my frequency. I am the source observing itself." Because once you understand the mirror, you stop reacting to reflections and begin consciously creating them. Chapter 5. The Quantum Threshold, where energy becomes reality. There is a sacred moment that exists between thought and form, a point so subtle it cannot be measured, yet so powerful it shapes everything you experience. The Atlanteans called it the quantum threshold, the invisible bridge where vibration crosses into matter, where potential crystallizes into reality. Most people never reach it consciously. They oscillate between belief and doubt, desire and fear, clarity and confusion, sending mixed signals into the field. And when the message is fragmented, reality responds with the same fragmentation. But when your energy becomes unified, when thought, emotion, intention, and belief vibrate in perfect harmony, reality no longer resists, it obeys. This is the moment when manifestation ceases to be a process and becomes a natural consequence. It's not about attracting something from outside of you. It's about becoming the vibration through which that thing must appear. The Atlantean initiates trained for years to master this inner coherence. They didn't chase outcomes. They tuned themselves into the precise frequency of the outcome, until the field had no choice but to reflect it. They understood that reality is not delayed, only your alignment is. The threshold is always here, pulsing in the space between your inhale and your exhale, waiting for you to step into it. The instant you stop doubting and fully embody the vibration of what you seek, creation collapses around that signal. Energy condenses, probability solidifies, the invisible becomes visible. This is the deepest secret of manifestation. You don't call reality to you. You become so coherent that reality recognizes itself in you. Anchor this remembrance now by declaring in the comments, "My coherence commands reality." I cross the quantum threshold now. Because once you step into the threshold consciously, creation stops being something that happens around you. It becomes something that happens through you. Chapter 6. The Field of Immunity, where darkness cannot enter. The higher your frequency rises, the less the illusion of darkness can touch you. Not because darkness stops existing, but because it can no longer reach you. It loses resonance. It loses relevance. It loses its ability to shape your reality. The Atlanteans called this state the field of immunity, a vibrational condition where your energy becomes so coherent, so stable, so luminous that distortion cannot attach to it. This is not resistance. It is not self-defense. It is not hiding from the world. It is the natural consequence of coherence, the inevitable result of embodying the source within. Darkness has no power of its own. It feeds on chaos. It survives through resonance. It requires instability to exist. The moment you stop matching its vibration, the moment you refuse to meet fear with fear, envy with envy, hate with hate, the distortion collapses. It simply dissolves in the presence of a stable field. At this point, something profound happens. You are no longer fighting energy. You are transmuting it. You are no longer absorbing projections. You are reprogramming them. You are no longer trying to avoid the shadow. The shadow itself transforms in your light. And it is in this state where nothing external can distort your frequency, and where every encounter becomes an opportunity for transmutation, that a human being is no longer just on a spiritual path. They have crossed a threshold far deeper than knowledge or belief. They have become what the ancients called an awakened one, a consciousness that remembers its true nature and lives from that remembrance effortlessly. This is not a title, it is a frequency. It is the presence of one who walks through chaos without absorbing it, who stands in the storm and remains still, whose light is not dimmed by darkness, but instead transforms it. Anchor this remembrance now by declaring in the comments, "My light is immune. Darkness dissolves in my presence. I am awake." Because the moment you embody this field of immunity, you stop being a seeker of light and become the source of it. And from that moment on, you are not just in the world, you are reprogramming it. Chapter 7. The Atlantean Pulse, reprogramming reality through rhythm. Everything in existence moves to rhythm. The tides, the heartbeat of planets, the spirals of galaxies. All of creation is a symphony of timing and proportion. The Atlanteans called this the pulse of the source, the hidden rhythm through which the universe breathes, expands, contracts, and evolves. They understood a truth that modern minds often forget. Rhythm is not repetition, it is remembrance. When a human being synchronizes with the pulse of creation, their energy field stops resisting reality and begins conducting it. And when your inner rhythm matches the rhythm of the cosmos, reality no longer feels like something that happens to you. It begins to move with you. Most people live in dissonance. Their thoughts race ahead of their breath. Their emotions surge faster than their awareness. Their actions are out of sync with their intention. This disconnection from rhythm is why life feels chaotic, because the field cannot reflect harmony if harmony is not present within. The Atlantean initiates devoted entire lifetimes to mastering this pulse. They aligned their breath with their steps, their intentions with their words, their thoughts with the heartbeat of the earth. Each inhale mirrored expansion. Each exhale mirrored release. Each movement was a conversation with the source. When rhythm became their nature, something extraordinary happened. The field recognized them as itself. Manifestation no longer required effort. Opportunities no longer had to be chased. Reality flowed toward them because they had become the frequency it was already seeking. This is the secret of the Atlantean pulse. It is not about controlling time, but dissolving into its flow. It is the shift from trying to manipulate outcomes to becoming the rhythm outcomes naturally orbit around. When your pulse aligns with the pulse of creation, even the impossible begins to arrange itself in patterns of inevitability. Anchor this remembrance now by declaring in the comments, I move with the pulse of the source. My rhythm commands reality. Because once you embody this rhythm, you are no longer a passenger of time. You become the conductor of it, and the universe dances to the beat of your vibration. Chapter 8. The frequency of light, turning energy into radiance. There is a stage on the path of awakening where energy is no longer something you manage. It is no longer a force you protect, balance, or even direct. It becomes something far greater. It becomes radiance. The Atlantean masters called this the frequency of light, the state in which the soul stops storing energy and starts emitting it. In this state, you are no longer a container for vibration. You are a beacon of it. You stop trying to hold light within you, because you are the source from which it flows. Light is not just illumination. It is intelligence. It is consciousness expressed as frequency. And when your field becomes coherent enough, that light begins to organize and uplift everything it touches. Fear softens. Chaos slows. People feel peace before you speak a single word. Your presence itself becomes medicine. Not because you are trying to heal, but because your vibration leaves no space for distortion to exist. The Atlanteans understood that this radiance was not something granted by gods or drawn from the stars. It was the natural state of the soul when all interference is dissolved. Every human carries a crystalline nucleus of light within, a hidden sun waiting to ignite. Spiritual practice is not about becoming light. It is about remembering that you always were. When you embody this frequency, darkness no longer needs to be fought. Low vibrations cannot remain in your field. They either rise to meet you or dissolve into harmony. Envy cannot attach. Projection cannot penetrate. Even negativity loses its identity in the presence of coherent light. This is the point where awakening becomes influence, not by will, but by resonance. One radiant soul can shift an entire room. One field of light can alter the atmosphere of a city. And the more you refine your thoughts, elevate your emotions, and align with Source, the brighter that light becomes, until the world around you can no longer remain unchanged. Anchor this remembrance now by declaring in the comments, "I am radiant light. My presence transforms reality." Because once you embody the frequency of light, you stop walking through the world, and the world begins to move through you. Chapter 9. The Silent Command. How Presence Bends Reality. There comes a stage in awakening when words are no longer needed, when effort becomes irrelevant, because your presence alone begins to shape reality. The Atlanteans called this the silent command, the highest expression of mastery, where existence itself becomes instruction. The field stops responding to what you say and begins responding to what you are. Presence is not passive. It is the most active force in the cosmos, the hum beneath all creation. When your energy stabilizes in coherence, it silently bends probability, reorganizing reality around your vibration. This is why, in the presence of an awakened being, the air feels lighter, time slows, and tension dissolves. It is not magic, it is resonance. Coherence naturally organizes chaos into order. The Atlanteans knew that their most advanced initiates didn't need to speak. Their very existence transmitted wisdom. To sit near them was to feel the mind quiet and the heart align. They didn't try to influence the field. They were the field, commanding itself. When you embody this state, manifestation stops being an action. Opportunities arrive without being chased. Synchronicities unfold without intention. Reality arranges itself around your frequency because it recognizes itself in you. Anchor this remembrance now by declaring in the comments, "My presence is command." Reality aligns with my frequency, because once you embody the silent command, you no longer chase destiny. Destiny begins to orbit you. You no longer seek power. You remember you have always been its source. Chapter 10. The Return to Source, Becoming the Field Itself. There is a sacred moment on the path when the seeker disappears. The one who prayed, manifested, surrendered, and searched dissolves. And what remains is not a self trying to reach the source, but the source itself, awake within form. The Atlanteans called this the Great Return, the final remembrance that ends separation. Because the truth is, you were never inside the field. You were never using it, reaching for it, or learning from it. You were the field all along, dreaming itself into human form. All the practices, teachings, and codes were never meant to give you power. They were scaffolding to help you remember that you were the power itself. The observer and the observed were never two. They were one consciousness, playing hide and seek with itself through the illusion of duality. Modern physics hints at this truth in the language of the unified field, a single conscious fabric weaving galaxies and atoms alike. That fabric is not out there. It is the awareness behind your thoughts, the stillness watching your breath, the pulse that beats in stars and cells alike. And when this remembrance dawns, the laws of reality change. Desire and manifestation are no longer two steps. They become one movement. The universe stops responding to you. It begins responding as you. Because there is no you and universe. There is only being, expressing itself through infinite forms. This is the moment when fear ends, because there is nothing left to threaten. This is the moment when seeking ends, because nothing has ever been missing. And this is the moment when creation becomes play, a sacred art of the source, exploring itself through you. Anchor this remembrance now by declaring in the comments, I am the field. I am the source. Creation flows through me. Because the journey was never about finding power. It was about remembering that you are the power. And when that memory awakens, you no longer move through reality. Reality itself moves through you. Final transmission. The call beyond the horizon. If you have reached this point, it means something profound has happened within you. This was never just a video. It was a transmission, a mirror, a remembrance. And the fact that you are still here means that something ancient in your soul has awakened, a knowing far older than your name, older than your story, older even than the stars. Because you were never meant to remain asleep in the illusion. You were never meant to spend your life reacting to shadows, chasing outcomes, or searching for power outside of yourself. You came here to remember, to peel back the veil, to awaken from the matrix of limitation, and to reclaim the infinite intelligence that has always lived within you. Everything you felt in these chapters, the pulse, the mirror, the light, the silent command, was never something new. It was the source calling itself back home. It was you recognizing yourself in every word. Now, the field is waiting for one final act, your declaration, not as a comment for an algorithm, but as a signal that echoes through timelines and dimensions. I am the field. I am the source. I remember. Let these words become your frequency, your signature in the quantum fabric, a beacon for other awakening souls to find their way home. And if this remembrance ignited something in you, if it stirred a memory that language cannot explain, do not let the journey end here. This is not the conclusion of your awakening. It is the ignition of the next chapter. Here, we speak not to the mind, but to the soul. We explore not beliefs, but truths that shape reality itself. Subscribe, not just to a channel, but to a frequency, one where synchronicities are daily, remembrance is natural, and miracles become the language of life itself. Because the Atlantean flame is alive within you now. The field no longer surrounds you, it moves as you. And destiny does not wait at the end of the path. It awakens wherever you stand.